If you're trying to build a personal brand from scratch right now, there's a good chance you're starting in the wrong place. Most people start with content. They ask, what should I post? How often should I post? And should I be on Instagram, LinkedIn, or YouTube? And don't get me wrong, content matters. But if you start there too soon, you can end up spending months posting consistently, but not having any real direction. You might get views, you might get followers, but that does not automatically mean that you're building a strong personal brand. Now, I went from working a 9 to 5 in tech as a designer to building a personal brand of over 20,000 followers on Instagram in less than 9 months, creating my own offers and eventually leaving my job. So if you work a 9 to 5 and you want to build your own thing, whether that's a digital product, a service, coaching, consulting, whatever makes sense for you, there are 4 things that you need to get right. Those 4 things are your positioning, your offer, your content, and your trust. So let's start with positioning. What do I mean when I say positioning? I think this word gets overcomplicated, right? So positioning is really just who do you want to help and what do you want to be known for? A lot of people confuse that with just picking a niche. So they say, I want to talk about design. I want to talk about AI. I want to talk about productivity. But in reality, these are just categories. They don't tell me who you're speaking to. And it also doesn't tell me what problem you solve. Most importantly, it doesn't give me a reason to remember you. I want you to think of it like this. If I were to watch 10 pieces of your content right now, and someone were to ask me, what does this person actually help with? Could I answer that question? If I can't, then chances are your positioning is probably not where it needs to be. For me, I could just say I talk about personal branding, right? But that's very broad and everyone and their mother is talking about that right now. But what I actually do is I help 9 to 5ers build and earn from their personal brand by creating offers centered around what they already know. That's much clearer. Now you know who I'm speaking to, how I help them, and the outcome that I'm bringing my target audience towards. That's what positioning gives you. It gives you direction for everything from your content to your offer and to who you speak to in your actual content. And once you have your positioning in place, the next question is not, okay, what am I going to post about? It's actually, what can I help this person with? That is where your offer comes in. This is where I think a lot of people go wrong. They end up becoming accidental influencers because they focus so much on the content that they build an audience, an arbitrary audience that has no idea what they help them with, and they don't have anything to actually give them that would actually help them. So instead of building an audience first, you want to create an offer, digital product, service, coaching, consulting, whatever, that would actually be a solution for the audience as you're growing. Your offer gives your personal brand somewhere to go. So it's not, again, you're growing an audience for no reason or relying on brand deals, for example. You actually have a vehicle to get your audience from where they are, the pain point, to where they want to be, their desired destination. So what matters is that you connect it back to your position. So let's say you are a designer working a 9 to 5. Maybe your positioning is around helping junior designers build a stronger portfolio. You know, that's something that you can offer to your target audience. All that matters is that you have something that you can provide as a solution to your target audience that is convenient for them and you and solves the actual problem. Once you have your offer, this is when getting into actually making content, this is when it makes sense. Now you know your positioning, you have an offer. Now you can create content that doesn't just grow an audience, it grows the right audience. So you're dialing in on your messaging. You know now that you're attracting the right people by speaking to those pain points, those desired outcomes in your actual content, so that now your offer makes sense to them. When you do this, you're making your target audience feel seen, understood, and educated on the problem that they already have. But you don't want to just educate. You want to shift beliefs. You want to shift their mindset on where they currently are and let them know that you have a solution that can actually solve the problem. This is how people are able to have less than 10,000 followers and still make millions of dollars. It's because they built that following with an offer, with positioning. They already knew who they were speaking to when they started making content. And if you already have followers and you don't know who you're speaking to, that's fine. You have to be okay with saying goodbye to those people who do not align with what you will create and who you will speak to. That will always be a good thing because you're making room for people who do align with your offer. But even if you have positioning right, if you have the offer, and if you're making the content, there's one last thing that you need to tie everything all together. And that one thing is one of the most important things, and that is trust. You can have great positioning, you can have a strong offer, and you can have useful content. But if people do not actually trust you, then none of that actually matters. So the question is, how do you build that trust? How do you make someone say, okay, this person is someone that I want to work with? There are a few things that you can leverage to build trust with your audience. The first thing is going to be your lived experience. A lot of people think they need to be an expert in a specific subject matter when all you really need is to be 1 or 2 steps ahead of the people that you want to help. So leverage your lived experiences. If you've gone through something and found a way out of it in your specific niche, leverage that in your content, in your positioning, right? When you do, create your bio, leverage your lived experience so that you're not just coming from a place of theory, but actually walking the walk. The next thing is going to be perspective, right? So a lot of people are just copying and pasting what everyone else is saying on social media. What you actually want to do is you want to set yourself apart by adding your perspective. What do you think about the subject? What do you think about the topic? There is something that you disagree with. Lean into that disagreement. That is the angle that you can leverage with your personal brand, your point of view. And the last thing is going to be your consistency. Can you show up on a regular basis to talk about what you help people with and the different things that they may be struggling with, those pain points? If you can do that, then you're going to outlast everyone else who's just doing it for vanity metrics, and they just want to get the brand deals, right? They don't want to actually create something of their own that would be self-sustaining, that would allow them to quit their 9-to-5 by you showing up and you genuinely being you in your content, even down to the way you write your copy. Like, it's going to create a lane in your niche, in your space, to where you become recognizable over time. That does not happen overnight. Again, you have to be consistent. For people to trust you, they have to see some kind of evidence that you do know what you're talking about. This is why I mentioned, if you haven't gotten results for clients, if you haven't gotten any testimonials from your offer, you must lean into your lived experience. That way you have something to bring to the table that says, hey, I do this, I've done this, And if you do not have those testimonials or whatever, what you can leverage is the documentation of you doing that thing. You want to position yourself as a guide, not a guru. So you're not trying to be Alex Hormozy or Layla Hormozy. You're trying to be you and a guide to people who are 1 or 2 steps behind you. So just lean into the problems that you know they can relate to and leverage that. Let me give you an example. So before I built my personal brand, I got into photography, music, I got into trading, even drop shipping, So I tried different things. Now at the time, it seemed like I had wasted years just trying these things and they didn't really go anywhere. But they actually gave me the leverage in gaining the experience that I can now share with my personal brand because I actually tried it. I put one foot in front of the other and now I can talk about it. So you have to do things. You have to just do them and document the journey along the way. This is why everyone that I work with, the first thing we do is we get clear on your story. What is your relatable story to your audience? So that when you are positioning yourself in your content, it's coming from a place that they can relate to. So your story is not separate from your expertise. Your story gives your expertise context. It gives people a reason to even care about whatever it is that you have to say. And that really comes down to the fact that information can be copied, but your perspective, your relatable story is something that cannot. So as we zoom out and we think on a bigger picture, if I were to build a personal brand from scratch and I was still working a 9 to 5, this is exactly what I would do. I would get clear on my positioning. I would figure out who I wanted to help and what exactly I wanted to be known for. Second, I would create my offer. What problem can I help this person solve? And what is the thing that I can create that is going to solve the problem for them? Third is going to be the actual content. What do I need to consistently talk about so the right person finds me and associates me with the solution that they've been searching for? And lastly, establishing that trust with your audience. Answering that question as to why these people should even listen to you in the first place. Why your perspective actually matters. I'm telling you, when those 4 things are checked off, you have better direction with your content. Your audience will make perfect sense because you will only be attracting the right people, and your offer will become a clear solution to those people. This is what makes personal branding so cool, so important, and honestly not an option anymore. It's because it becomes an asset instead of just another social media account. So instead of thinking of it in colors or in fonts or some kind of theme that you have going for you, this is coming down to the reputation, what you are known for, and what people think about when they hear your name. And then over time, as you stay consistent, as you continue to grow and tweak and get feedback and iterate, they trust you enough to take the next step, whatever that next step may be for you. So if you're wanting to build a personal brand from scratch as a 9 to 5er, someone who works full time, don't start with content. Don't start with figuring out the color scheme and the color palette and what font choice you want to select. Start with the positioning, with the offer, then the content, and then the trust. Until next time, peace.